Hey guys, so I'm Mike, if you haven't met me yet. This is Larry. We've been best friends since we were like 14. Larry and I recently moved from Philadelphia to Oregon to run a farm. But we want to kind of start at the beginning of our recreational farming journey and show you what we've done in Philadelphia and everything between to Oregon and here. So we had a pickle company in Philadelphia, and we had an urban farm. We had an opportunity to farm on this block that was sort of abandoned. And there was an old woman, Indonesian woman by the name of Maggie, who had been taking care of it for a while. And she was pretty busy with her regular job. So she said we could use it. It wasn't owned by anybody. It was just like an abandoned block. There were tons of mugwort and stuff growing. Wow. She had been spreading compost there for 20 years. She planted cherry trees, mulberries. It's like a little oasis in a really dark part of the city. These are some of the peppers we grew there. So we used these peppers in several applications. We made spicy pickles, we powdered them, and we made kimchi. We did fermented pickles as well as vinegar pickles.
We boiled them down and used it as an IPM.
Yeah, we used the peppers as an IPM spray as well to deter pests. But before we were doing recreational farming, me and Larry had just been doing organic farming with guanos and compost teas and stuff like that. And we wanted to order nutrients from Dragonfly Earth Medicine. I don't know if anybody knows that company. They make like dried amendments and stuff from Canada. But they were expensive. We couldn't afford them. We were just like this little 2-guy pickle operation. I called them on the phone and they were like, just look up Master Cho. And I was sitting right on Google, and this was like almost 5 years ago at this point. I looked it up. She was like, you can grow plants and then turn those into nutrients for your plants. And I was like, what? Okay. So we started practicing immediately. Started making IMO, and FPJ, and FFJ, and all that stuff, OHM right away, and applying it. Oh, I have a clicker.
Yeah, because it's your computer.
So that's Maggie.
Hi, Maggie.
That's right across the street from the farm. She would always come over with something to property if there was space. She'd have these sweet potatoes. It was pretty funny. That was her house, and we didn't have power on the farm because it was just an abandoned block. So when we did have to use power for anything, we would run it through her mail slot across the street. And that's where it was, that little circle you see, so you can see there's not much going on. Yeah, this is a huge drug area too, just down the streets of the L train. I don't know if anybody knows Philadelphia. Pretty dismal place, but we wanted to bring some light to it. And you can see there's like the 3D view. I don't know why this is coming out so pixelated right now. It might take a second to catch up. There we go. So you can see this is our farm here. This was a Planet Fitness. It was always sort of bright, but we had these mulberry and cherry trees sort of surrounding us, giving us some protection. And they didn't cover the back, so we got the late day sun a lot from that side. And all this green area here, she had been spreading compost for like 20 years. Just super luscious. Gets filled with trash too, so. But I just wanted to show like a microcosm and macrocosm. This is from one of our pepper plants. Spider killing a fly. That's just some more shots of Kensington to put in the context. There's always shootings and all kinds of crazy stuff going on.
Just like Pune.
That's where Larry and I lived for 6.5 years. We live in Oregon now, near Portland. We escaped. So these are our pepper beds. We did 3 beds this size. I think they were 5 feet across by 12 feet long. And they were like almost 2 feet deep, 1.5 feet deep. You can see these are the starts that we started in the wintertime in our house. Turned our living room into a plant nursery with lights and stuff. Took our TV down, we'd just sit on the couch and stare at the plants instead. But we treated all the soil with IMO4 and all the inputs, and we saw things take off really quickly. This is our water source. These wrenches are pretty old, so they're rare and hard to get. But the fire hydrant, we were able to tap into it and put this apparatus on it that ran to a hose to our farm, to a reverse osmosis filter, because that water's gross. So we filtered it all into 55-gallon drums, and then we would have to run a cord across the street, plug in a pump to feed all our plants.
Love will find a way.
It was like 3 blocks from our house, too. We would just skateboard there. So here's some of the peppers, some of the fruits of our labor. That's a Venezuelan tiger pepper. I think that's what those are as well. Some more peppers that's the late season harvest, these really colorful ones, so it'll look better in a second.
They fruited until December.
Yeah, we had snow on our plants several times, and they were unfazed, and that's when we kind of realized, before I knew much about natural farming, I was like, well, there's fermentation happening in the bed. We put some wood in the bottom, like hugelkultur style, and we were like, the soil's warm, and it's snowing out, and these plants are thriving.
I got chicken skin.
Yeah, and most of these peppers are super hot, like Moruga scorpions, and Trinidad scorpions, and chocolate scorpions, and Carolina reapers, all that kind of stuff. Some of them cross-pollinated, like this pink tiger with one of these reapers, and came out to be this
Pink
ugly
reaper.
thing. And we call this the weapon pepper because it's so hot. So here's a shot of the garden. You can see our 3 beds and some of our container plants here. All the purple plants is a variety from Italy called the Italian pink tiger. Really interesting cultivar of peppers. Beautiful.
There wasn't much vegetation in our area, so whatever vegetation there was, the pests would come, or the bugs would come, so we would constantly just implement spraying, and we've never ran into a problem.
The only goods in town, so the bugs just came to us, but we would spray regularly. It worked. So this...
What did you spray?
Pepper juice.
The pepper spray?
Is there questions allowed, Drake? I'll talk to you later. So this was from a little harvest festival that we had. Maggie had a bunch of her family, and when she said family, you didn't know if they were actually like her sister or her mom. She would just call everybody that kind of thing. So all these like Indonesian people that she knew came and did traditional dances from Bali to music in front of the peppers, and we ate food. It was awesome. She would make us wonton soup from scratch all the time, just bring it to us in the morning. So this is a shot from my Instagram. This is a group of inner city kids at the West Philadelphia Orchard cutting up stuff to make inputs. And this was not my doing. I had just been spreading kind of KNF around to some like-minded friends in Philadelphia. This is a girl named Ava was teaching this group of kids, and still is, and it's rippling out in Philadelphia, and they're applying all this to the orchards there. And there's a dude named Adrian Greep, and he's got a farm there. He's working as well. It's in West Philadelphia, I believe. He's doing all KNF, and I taught him some stuff years ago, and he's just flourished. And he's growing really abundant food in the middle of like inner city. So that's our pickle company. I used Google for that Korean, so I don't know if it's wrong on the jar there. But our company was called Gary Duckett. And some of the pink tiger peppers right after harvesting. And we made the front page of the newspaper. This was a photo shoot of our sort of pickle cult idea we had. And we would market them as dad snacks too. And we're all about just like, making it look like this corny little like shop thing at farmers markets. But we had really good products, and we would charge a lot because they were naturally farmed. And people would buy a jar of kimchi or pickles for 14 or 15 bucks.
Whoa!
Yeah, and some of these peppers we would sell for $1 each.
Nice. Whoa!
And this is peppers going onto the dehydrator. We dry them out in the dehydrator really slow so they retain their fragrance and color. And then we powder them and use them in our kimchi.
That's nice.
Here's some more peppers. That's one of the weapon peppers. They're purple before they're green, and then they turn red. Moruga scorpion, pink tiger, Venezuelan, purple jalapeno. No, it's red. Peach ghost, pink tigers. And you can see we had a lot of life going on in our little oasis. Sometimes bums would try to sleep there too.
Praying mantis?
Yeah, that's one of the pink tiger peppers. Sometimes they look like they're dripping. It's weird. So this is a kitchen. They would let us rent out their space pretty cheap at night. It was a soup kitchen that had a lot of counter space. That's what you need for pickles. You need a ton of counter space. This was fermented carrots, right? Pickled carrots with vinegar, purple carrots. That's why the brine turned purple. But some of these brines we'd have left over. We're like, what do I do with this? It's so good. So we started having events around the city at cocktail bars and stuff like that. And they would use our brines and cocktails. And we'd have little events and serve pickles and stuff like that.
Oh, beautiful.
That's the kimchi. You can see it's not super muddy and pasty because the peppers we use, you don't need a huge amount of them. So it kind of stays like a cleaner kimchi, like it looks more white in the jar. That's our logo. This is Waldo, young natural farmer. This kid is super special to me and Larry, one of our best friends from Philadelphia. He started a pizza company down the street from us, and it definitely helped our pickle thing launch off. We did some pickle pizza collaboration things. But unfortunately, his son, Waldo, who was one of the biggest babies born in Pennsylvania in like 60 years or something, he was 14 pounds, got diagnosed with cancer in both of his eyeballs when he was 5 months old, bilateral retinal So my friend came to me and was like, what do I do? Of course, we're like having him around the IMO and stuff. But we suggested that he use cannabis oil, specifically CBD oil, and he did start using it, and Waldo's now 3, and he's been cancer-free for 1.5 years. So this was a raspberry farm in New Jersey that asked Larry and I to consult for them. They had 2 greenhouses this size. They had no idea what they were doing. Sorry, I'm into it. They had no idea what they were doing. So they asked me and Larry to help out because they wanted to do organic farming. And this was a conventional blueberry farm, probably for 100 years, 80 acres, spraying Roundup, 100 feet, not even 30 feet from these greenhouses all the time. Yeah, it was kind of crazy even trying to get them into the right mindset. And the Master Cho talks about sometimes people have to farm their mind before they can practice these methods. That was certainly the case. And even though they were hiring us and paying us money, they still weren't putting these practices in place unless we were physically doing it hands-on there. So that we stopped working there because it was kind of like
Don't want to jump.
hard to deal with. And they were running into a lot of problems when we left. And then 2 months later, I saw one of them at a party, and he was like, we decided to finally listen to you. Larry meticulously wrote them this whole handbook by hand, not even typed, and color-coded it, different feedings and timing, nutrient cycle type stuff. And they finally started applying it, and they were like, our plants turned around, they're fruiting, they're doing great now. So,
Gotta
you
do
can
it.
see, this is the blueberry farm next to it.
Oh my God!
Everyone stopped clapping right away.
Danger, danger.
So this is like what the soil's like in South Jersey. It's pretty much sand. It's like a coastal plain, acidic, which blueberries can do well in. But this type of farming was definitely not cultivating microorganisms of any sort.
About no eating, is that what that said?
What's that?
No entry.
Oh,
No
entry.
I was gonna say no eating.
That too.
What are you gonna eat?
So, has anybody here heard of the Living Soils Symposium? A couple people, 2 people. So this was an event that took place in Southern Oregon. A lot of people that are in the regenerative farming movement on the West Coast kind of came together from Northern California and Southern Oregon, and a lot of people spoke. Dragonfly Earth Medicine was there, which was super cool because they told us about natural farming, and I got to meet them and speak alongside of them at this thing. Larry and I both put together a presentation on IMO and just our experiences so far. And I made like a 100-slide presentation. I want to show Drake so he can like approve it, and then I'll put it out there if it's good enough. But that's some of our slides, us presenting. This is Swami. He's a famous cannabis grower. There's like 300 people there, so this is like much more easy for me to talk. Although you guys all know about natural farming, so I'm a little nervous. And I just wanted to show you some of the slides. I went to school for animation and design, so I like to apply that to farming because I feel like it's the best use for it. For years I was doing pharmaceutical animations, which is like the antithesis of what this is. And that sucked, so I'm really happy to be doing stuff like this, even though I'm not getting paid for it. And a lot of inspiration for this presentation was drawn from the CGNF Level 1 course that Larry and I took over in Papico. I would say it wrong. Papico. So, Master Joe talking about 3 heats. I just wanted to put some of this stuff into visualization that I took down in my notes. That was a quote from Master Cho that I wrote down in my notes. Sorry.
Very well done.
This was our trip to Ginger John's.
Oh, there's me.
Yeah, there you are. That's your iPad. But Ginger John had 0 earthworms 8 years ago. That's what he said. I remember writing a sad face in my notebook.
Yeah.
But then he started making and spreading IMO. This is a video. I don't know if it'll play. Let's see. It's a little choppy. So I snuck off when we were at Ginger John's just to check. And there was tons of worms. He wasn't kidding. This was one of the slides I thought was like cute and an easy way to convey like ideas via imagery. Stole that. Google.
Yeah. No,
Can we
you're
see
good.
what
You're
that
good.
said?
Yeah, well, I'll release this whole thing. It's like 100 slides, so I just want to give you guys a glimpse of what it kind of like felt and looked like, rather than focus on it, because I have a lot more slides here, and we're not into the good part yet. This was Chris Trump's IMO 2. So I just wanted to like simplify in English the best I could to people who have never heard about this at all. There's me, Larry, and Camden from the last class, and Marcus, if anybody remembers Marcus, doing Bagua in the parking lot. And there's Joe on his birthday. We sung him happy birthday. So this it's a 1-acre plot of land in the Puna jungle. And as soon as we left the last CGNF class, Larry and I were like, let's go exploring. Let's drive south into the jungle and see what we can find. And my friend messaged me on Instagram that I haven't seen in 5 years, a high school friend. And he's like, I see you're in Hawaii. Why don't we link up? And he's 5 minutes away from where I am. So we go to his house. We had to meet him somewhere because I couldn't find it. But we go to his house, and he hand cleared with a machete this 1-acre plot. It was just jungle. And he turned this school bus into a house. And he's like a physics guy that does all kinds of stuff with lasers and crystals. I don't even know. So he doesn't work that much. And he gets to spend a lot of time building this land. And he had never heard of natural farming. So we're coming straight from class, and we're like, see this raw piece of land, and we just start telling him stuff and showing him our notes, and his mind is just like blown. So now he's been building soil and making IMO, making inputs, and making OHM, making everything, and he's starting to see his land flourish. So this is where Larry and I work now in Oregon, and this is a recreational cannabis farm about 40 minutes south of Portland, Oregon. Which is a pretty hard climate to grow that type of plant because there's a lot of fog and mold issues that happen.
Where is it?
It's South Oregon. It's in Canby.
Canby, okay.
Yeah, or south of Portland. This is the logo I did for our company. It's called Pudding River Natural. We have an Instagram. It's called Pudding River Natural.
Pudding River like Hubbard?
What's that?
Yeah.
Whiskey Hill.
Oh yeah.
Used to live there.
So when Larry and I got hired, the field didn't even look like this yet. They had ripped out a dead peach field, an orchard, that they all had the peach leaf curl, conventionally farmed for, I don't even know, 60, 100 years. But it was concrete, like the road and stuff wasn't even there when we first showed up. And we were like, this is what we're gonna farm in? Like, I can't even stick my finger into this a little bit. This here is tractored and broken up a little bit. But once we worked the machines on it a little bit, we trucked in a ton of horse compost and spread it evenly over the beds and tilled it into the soil, and then hand-shaped all the beds with rakes. There was 60 beds, 140 feet long, 10 feet wide, so it was like a ton of work.
It was pure clay. It was just compacted clay, and we tried to prevent more compaction. Sorry, we tried to prevent more compaction, and we were met with opposition, and it got worse. So we kind of looked at ourselves. What are we going to do? How are we going to get any crop to produce in this kind of soil? So, I mean, what did we turn to? We turned to the IMO and just hope that for the best. And maybe year 2 we'll get something to come out of here that's worth it. Both talk. Check, check, check.
Yeah.
Hello, hello, hello. Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll start doing crazy stuff on it. So here's an IMO1 collection that we did from that land.
We love IMO.
There's the IMO2 from that IMO1. And we actually brought, I believe it was this particular batch of IMO with us to the Soil Symposium in the form of an IMO3 that we made in a cedar box that Camden made. It was like really cool little cedar box. And we had to drive it down there in the bed of my truck. So it was like cold, so we brought it into the hotel room and like put it by the heater, and it started like re-buzzing back to life, so we're really like, oh, we have a good specimen to show. IMO on the road. But the soil sample was from the farm that we work at now, but we weren't currently working there, or we weren't hired. It was just we were friends with these people, and we took their soil sample, and when Dragonfly Earth Medicine came by our farm, they were like, oh, you brought the microbes around, they like you, they got you the job here. So here's our IMO tunnel, it's just a plastic kind of hoop house that the ends can open up to let some light in and airflow. You can see there's a bunch of biochar that we made from the peach wood. And me and Larry always like to poke holes in the IMO, especially when it's on this scale. And it usually starts colonizing on the holes first. You can see we used the bamboo mat to cover it. And this is with a wheat brand. That's what we can get in Oregon. Organic, like commercial kind of feed, wheat brand.
This was day 1.
Yeah, it was day 1. I'm not sure which day this was. But you can always see the IMO sort of clustering around the biochar, which I love. Master Joe always calls it apartment for microbes. This is so cute. So this is towards the end of the 3 being done. That pile was a little later in development. And then we turned all this into 4, which I don't think I have pictures of. But it was a lot of IMO for these 4 acres, 2 acres of pure canopy space. You can see we started planting here after working and building the beds.
How long did that take when you made your rows and you put your IMOs to the planting part, approximately?
3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh, that soon?
Yeah, I mean, we only had 6 months from the time we got there until the end of the season. So you'll see it was really astonishing to I believe Master Show, he says 2 months for this to start working, or even clean the soil, but I totally believe it. There's some horsetail, some kelp. We do a lot of foraging for FPJs.
We spent the first 2 months just foraging as much as we can in local stuff and collecting everything that we needed, because we had no idea how much stuff we actually needed to produce 4 acres of a crop.
Yeah, so it was all guesswork. you sent me some information, Drake sent me some information that was like guesstimate how much IMO you need per acre, and that's what I went off of, and it was almost like exact to like the handful, I swear. So we walked around, me and Larry, and just spread it by hand, and it was like a pleasure to just like IMO like, as much as we wanted.
Yeah.
So this is a bunch of ferments.
The pharmacy.
Seems like horsetail, thistle, mango, there's lab in progress,
Sage.
water-soluble calcium,
Borage.
borage. So that tank there with the apparatus behind me, I know it's a little hard to see, but this thing here is what we call a fertigator, and it basically doses the nutrients into the irrigation line that's being drawn from the river, and you can change the speed of the stroke pump. So we would pour all of our mixtures in here, which was gallons and gallons and gallons for the whole field. And we had to like try to figure out what's the right amount to use and what's the right speed to set the stroke pump at. And I'm sure there's some math that can be figured out, but I'm not smart enough for it. So we just had to kind of guess and you know, like Master Joe talks about, like a chef, just adding things and seeing how they respond.
Where did you get mango FFJ in Oregon?
We had connections with produce outlets that had spoiled pallets of fruit or not deemable for sale, which are like basically there's a few bad ones in there.
So we're getting pallets for $100.
So you were bringing IMOs from Chile or wherever the mangoes came from?
I don't know where they're from.
Yeah.
They probably didn't survive in Oregon anyway.
I think your computer went to sleep.
No, this is a video, I believe. Yeah, this is a video. This is a weird video that we made about lab. That's all I'll say. It's gonna be a little choppy. But this is with raw milk, scooping the cream off.
Wow. Lots of cream.
Yeah.
Looks like Jersey milk.
So there's a farm down the street that Larry made a connection with. And he would go there and pick up the milk from her. And she sold it to us very cheap. And she had more than she knew what to do with, so it was helping her not wasting it as well. Yeah.
Did you turn her on to natural farming?
She had actually just done a podcast with someone from Hawaii on Korean natural farming, so she was kind of hip to what we were doing. I didn't have to like, we had her raw milk, we're going to make it into nutrients if we had it for cheap.
Yeah, we didn't have to explain so much. So there's Larry scooping some seawater on the coast of Oregon. And that might have been Washington actually that day. And then these are a bunch of food grade 55-gallon drums that we're doing our large scale ferments in. Which I mean, it's okay, and like these spouts kind of work, but it depends what you're using. It was kind of annoying to have to pour all of those out and strain them on a screen. And there's definitely a better way to do it with like the proper equipment, but that's what we had. So this is the IMO coming to life after we did our first drop of the cover crop, because we started pulling light deprivation tarps. And everybody's familiar with triggering cannabis plants to flower. They need 12 hours of darkness, and if you wait for that to happen naturally, it's too late, and you don't have a season to grow in the Pacific Northwest anyway. So we started early, so we didn't want it to be too humid inside of the tents at night, so we took all the cover crop down, and the way the IMO responded after we did that was unfathomable. It just came right up in every single bed.
We watched the immune system of the plant skyrocket from that point.
Wow.
Yeah, the
We
plant
should
health.
cut this like 2 weeks.
Yeah, it needed that organic matter.
Wow.
And then you can see after that, shortly after that, tons of mushrooms were fruiting.
Every time we would feed the entire drip line, there'd be 4 in every bed, which is lined with mushrooms.
Yeah.
Wow.
So here's maybe a couple weeks after planting. And these plants were all root bound when we got here too. So me and Larry were like trying to keep 4,500 plants that are, you know, this tall in a half-gallon pot, crammed together in a greenhouse. The only way we kept them alive was foliar feeding. And like, Larry's usually the foliar spray guy, and I'm like the drench guy. Larry was in there just spraying them every day. And they went from like turning yellow to back to green. It was like this battle until we could plant. But the field wasn't ready, we didn't have our license, blah, blah, blah. So here's from like a boom lift crane, the shot. And this is the entire 4-acre plot, 2 acres of canopy. And the entire thing was covered in straw mulch by hand. Yeah, it was a lot. And we had like, 110-degree days, so it was really intense. And then this area here, so there's a river here. This is like a riparian zone here. These trees, tons of owls in here at night. And there's a few eagles that live up here. A golden eagle, and a bald eagle, and 2 ospreys. Really cool to see like the biodiversity there. And then this whole thing we planted with squash for fermentation. This is one of the beds. The cover crop really started coming up, and we noticed that some cover crop companies, seed companies, they mix in on purpose mustard greens and daikon radish. What's attracted like a ton of pollinators and just beneficials, and then the daikon radishes are just drilling in everywhere and breaking all this clay up.
That's great. Wow.
So here's when they start to veg a little more. This is a yucca cone plant in front of one of our favorite strains to grow, Mokalope, that we brought from the East Coast. The yucca cone plant was gifted to us at the Living Soil Symposium by Dragonfly Earth Medicine, and so it was really special to have it there. That's me holding one of the daikons.
Looks like it hit some hard ground.
Yeah, starting to curve. And this is when the plants really start to take off, catch their stride.
Wow.
That's Larry down the field. We didn't get to spray much. We only sprayed the field, half of the field, like 1.5 times. We never finished. We didn't have the equipment to do it, and we were still building while we were farming. So if we're still there next year, it'll be a lot different, not having to create the infrastructure, be a construction worker and a farmer at the same time.
Are you leasing or do you own this land?
Me and Larry.
Oh,
are
you're
farm
working for the
managers
company.
here, so
Right,
working
right,
for a
right,
company.
sorry.
Yeah. It's just a little thing I made for Instagram. But this light depth system we sort of pioneered, and it was pretty crazy building it. It consisted of 9 poles in each bed, 3 on the end, 3 in the middle, 3 on the other end, and there were cables ran on the tops of each pole down to an anchor, and we had a tensioner, to each cable. And then we got the boom lift, and we dropped all these polyweave tarps over the top of it. And then every day we would open the tarps at 7 o'clock and then close them at 7 o'clock in the evening. So we had to do that every day for 3 weeks straight. It was a lot of work.
Each side took about an hour.
With 6 guys on each, 6 guys doing it. Yeah, so it was like sprinting with these tarps every morning or every night, and then in the morning they'd be dripping wet with dew, so you'd be like tackling them open. It was crazy. But it triggered the flowering in time for us to have a successful season. And here, right before, so when you see this stage, when they're starting to stretch, we started giving them water-soluble calcium phosphate maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks before that, several times. And the buds started to set really fast because of it.
Uniformly.
Yeah. The only non-uniformity there really was in the loss of genetic potential from the way that these guys have been growing these plants for like 20 years with chemicals. So some of them were what we call dudding. I'm sure it's like a systemic parasite or something that hasn't been identified. This is Shiro plum. In the back of the property, we have tons of fruit trees, so we have a lot of resources for FFJ ferments.
We did a bunch of collecting as they were fruiting, so we have all of these fermented fruit juices for next season.
Yeah.
And we're able to study all season what kind of plants pop up throughout the year and figure out our harvest schedule for those plants to turn into fermented plant
Yeah,
juice.
as far as foraging on the property, there's like a ton of different thistles and stuff that come up and borage and stuff like that. So that's what we use for most of our fermented plant juice. Was like nettle, thistle, borage, comfrey, and stuff like that. Japanese knotweed,
Sure. Donkey rhubarb.
donkey rhubarb. There's us picking some plums. And then we went to the coast that day where we got seawater. We also got a bunch of kelp that was washed up on the shore. And it was funny because the cops stopped us on the beach. We had a trailer full of kelp. We were like, "What are you guys doing?" We're like, "Farming." We're like, "Okay, go ahead." I don't know if they believe this.
Go back. So the left picture, the entire time we were thinking about Drake telling us to cut up our plant material into a certain size.
Size.
So for 2 days with machetes, we just spin around in circles. Pieces.
This was actually a really potent ferment. We used it in foliar a lot and in veg, and it just kept things really like that blue-green color. So we had a lot of beneficials to start to come in, frogs and ladybugs and all kinds of stuff. I don't know if anybody catches this, but you can if we trust. So this is further onset of flowering, where we start to use fermented fruit juices, unripe banana, plum, apricot, different things we had. So this is further along. I think we were done pulling tarps at this point. We were just flowering with the days naturally. But we started to feed a lot, and we were really packing on weight. And different genetics have different requirements too, and different water requirements. So it was tricky because we couldn't really feed every row differently. But what we could do, if there was a strain that didn't require as much water, we could turn that row off. But when we initially built our irrigation system, it was just 2 drip lines going down. It wasn't enough. We needed one at least on each side of each plant because there was side-by-side planting. So we ended up putting more in later and having to do some hand watering. So we hand watered the 4 acres several times, which was a lot of work. It took like a whole day and a half just to do one side. This is a CBD cultivar, which reminds me of Waldo. This is like what helped heal his eyeballs. This is called Royal Highness. It's like 3% THC and 16% CBD, anti-cancer.
What's with the,
Does the netting help hold it up?
So this is trellising, and this is made of plastic, so you just unroll it and it sort of holds it up. But I don't like the fact that it's plastic and there's so much plastic. And I found biodegradable netting that I want to use for next year that you can throw in the compost pile at the end of the year. Because this was a lot of work to clean up, but we cleaned it all up. So there's Larry's dog.
Right there.
I'm trying to load.
Pretty.
This was around harvest time, so this is when things are really, you can see the calyx development on the anatomy of the plant. It's really swelling from the nutrients being dialed in.
I was really intrigued by on Mr. Cho talking about the amount of seeds that you can plant in one spot and still have yields that are higher than this year. We probably planted way too many plants. I think the next year we would do not even half as many.
Give her
Kind of
room.
just made a hedge of plants, and the sun side of the row would get heavy and lean over, so we were constantly pulling the entire row of netting over to.
It was like the whole thing was trying to go towards the sun in the late summer, when the sun's lower in the sky. So yeah, we could totally do less plants, more spacing, more airflow. This was 4,500 plants. Too many. Yeah. Yeah. This is from our greenhouse. This is from me and Larry. You can do 4 personal plants in Oregon, so we have 4 plants in there, and they're all green natural farming as well. Doing really well with supplemental lighting as well. So
That was the wine stream.
this is a wine strain.
Wine bread.
Yeah, this is TK White Tangy. And these are 2 of our plants in the greenhouse, so you can see like the lighting. This is at night, but you can see the supplemental lighting that we use. It helps them along the cloudy kind of days right now. These ones are still going. And this was how we harvested to maintain the quality and integrity of the buds, not to bruise them up and stuff like that. So we had to build this apparatus, and that's like a huge part of farming is like running into obstacles. Like, how can I do this? What can I do to build it to make it faster? Sometimes you have to stop for a day and like build something to make it go faster in the long run.
So that's hanging dry.
That's how we got into the drying.
Just hanging the harvest so it doesn't get
Because
crushed.
they were like, anywhere from 30 to 40 pounds each, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when it's spread out over like a weird plant, it's hard to bring in.
As far as results, we were farming with green natural farming before, and we were growing a pepper, and it's super hot, so when we would cut the peppers open, we would see the oil production. And from year 1, where we just started dabbling with green natural farming, and year 2, where we were kind of full on with it, the oil production, maybe 4 times the amount of oil and capsaicin.
You can taste it, and the color of the peppers became more vibrant too. I mean, you saw the photos.
And it totally did the same thing with cannabis. Bigger yields, more resin production, more oil production.
Yeah, higher medicinal value as well. And this is a little video I made at the end of the season. It's going to play probably a little choppy, but we'll see what happens. It's just like a collage of the sort of videos I took.
Pudding River has cleaned up a lot since I was there.
That's the
Really
Malala.
good.
Oh, that's the Malala. Oh, okay.
The pudding is behind us.
All right.
That's our water source, the Malala.
If you would sit down on the ground, then your entire body would be covered in decomposer mites and arthropods.
Yeah, there's just so much life in there. I guess if anyone has some quick questions, I can answer them.
Did you bring any samples?
Talk to you later.
I have a question. Were those all clones?
Yes.
They were all clones. The clones that they had been growing farming chemically for years lost their genetic potential. Newer ones that were only 2nd generation that had just got cut from a seedling plant were way more healthy, way more vigorous.
Who's taking care of the Philadelphia square that needs to go?
No one.
Oh.
Maggie might be.
It's kind of like a neighborhood thing where people would go there every day and drink their coffee. The beds are still there. Maggie still plants peppers and stuff that she eats, but it's not
like full production.
It's
like
not
it was
the
when
full
we were
thing,
there.
and I'm sure, there was one thing, we knew we were on our way out of Philadelphia for about a year, so we were like, okay, we have to, there's one thing Philadelphia has to remember us by, it's like spreading Korean natural farming to the small group of urban farmers, because they're all looking for ways to kind of have an edge up, because there's so much competition with the farms on the outside of the city. There was a couple inside the city that were doing really good things and wanted to have a product that they can market for hire, and people like boutique stuff in cities. So we kind of spread that, and we watched it ripple from not only just the urban farms, but to kids and to women recovery programs, and it was just kind of amazing to see. I'm a little choked up, but